Hey Mimos, I wanted to show you an addition to this Sawhorse that wasn't in yesterday's video. I think this is the first time I've ever had to go back and add a correction after the video was already done, but I didn't know this was a problem until after I'd already shot the video and posted it, and I started playing around with the Sawhorses and setting them up and resetting them up and setting things on top of them. And eventually what was happening is this the two hinged legs were developing a side-to-side wiggle to them. They were splaying out as much as 10 inches on each side, which was causing this shelf to just fall off of the two pins. And I think it was because of that strap hinge, the two strap hinges I used to hold these on. At first, the strap hinge was good and stiff and the legs weren't coming out, but over time it started to develop this side-to-side movement. So I don't know if a strap hinge was really the best solution. I was thinking if you try this, you might want to try one of these type of hinges. This is it's a T hinge, and it seems to have less, side-to-side wiggle to it, which might help. But what I did was I just added this 1.5 inch wide brace across the very top of these two legs, which really holds them together nicely. I should have done that to begin with, and gives it plenty of support, and there's still plenty of room for the shelf to fall into place. So sorry about that, and if you did download the plans, I've made the changes on the plan, so you'll see that cross brace on there. I wanted to follow up with last week's mere minutes. Remember I was talking about Titebond 3? I used it for the first time and it left black lines along my glue joints on the patio table, and I heard from a lot of you, and it sounds like the consensus is that's just the way Titebond 3 is. I guess it reacts with the tannins in the wood or something and it creates lovely black lines. So I guess if you're looking for black lines on your seams, definitely go with Titebond 3. Otherwise, just use Titebond 2. I should have used this. I love Titebond 2. I've used this for years. And you can tell I buy it by the gallon. In fact, lately I've started writing the date when I buy it. So this one I bought September 2012. I've got about that much left in it, so I probably go through more than half a gallon a year of that stuff. But it always works great, and I got to looking at it and it says it's excellent water resistance, ideal for exterior applications. So this would have just been fine. This one, it just is waterproof, so I guess it's waterproof, water resistance. I don't know if that's just word games, or I guess this is intended if you're gonna go underwater with it, in which case it doesn't matter if you have black lines showing all the time. But I really wish I hadn't used this. The only reason I used it is because I got it free. And really Titebond 2 is just about the only glue I use. Sometimes people will ask me about polyurethane glue, if I've ever used it, like Gorilla Glue, and I've tried it and I hate it. I don't understand the appeal of this glue when Titebond 2 is just as strong, probably stronger. With polyurethane glue, it's just a huge hassle. You've got to wet the wood down first, spray it down with water, then you put the glue on, then you put the pieces together, and then it foams up into this ugly foamy stuff, and you got to deal with that. You've got to scrape it off once it's all done. It's like, yeah, I want to do all that. Like 90% of everything I use is wood glue. Once in a while I use epoxy if I have to join together dissimilar materials, say wood to metal or wood to plastic. Then epoxy is a good choice because I think it's a physical bond, whereas I think wood glue is a chemical. I really don't know what I'm talking about. I also wanted to follow up with the finish, the spar urethane that I used on the table. Remember I was complaining last week that after it had dried and I brought it out there the next day, it felt sticky, it felt tacky. Well, it cured itself. It's not tacky anymore, it's perfectly dry and hard. I'm glad, because I really didn't want to take that table back in the shop and sand it all down and refinish it. Once a project is done, I feel like it's done. I can move on with my life. I don't want to revisit that project at all. I wanted to remind you that I'm going to be down at VidCon in LA at the end of the month. It starts June 26th. So if you're in LA, you might want to check out VidCon. It's huge, massive video convention for people who watch videos, people who create videos. There's an industry track where you can, take classes and sit in on discussions about all things YouTube. And I'll be on a panel, actually. If you want to see me, I'm gonna be there, well, I'm gonna be there the whole weekend, but I'll be sitting in on the panel called Crafting, Cooking, and DIY. So on June 27th at 3:30. So I'll be there with, I think there's 3 or 4 other people who do like a makeup channels and crafting channels and There's a cooking channel. It's aimed toward content producers, people who make, you know, say woodworking videos or anything, on how to best market those videos, how to promote your video, what works best on creating online video, what doesn't work, those sorts of things. So I think it'll be pretty informative. I'm really looking forward to that. Oh, and I'll have an Ask Mimo this week on this channel. Some people have been asking me how I'm doing the Ask Mimo and the Mirror Minis. This past week I had a Mirror Mini. This week I'm gonna do an Ask Mimo section. So I'm alternating weeks. So one week you'll get the Mirror Mini, the next week you get the Ask Mimo. I also got comments on my tomato plants last week about pruning them. And yes, I do prune my tomato plants. I don't go crazy pruning them, but I pull off the little suckers, they're called. I don't know if that really does any good or not, but I've been hearing that for, you know, my entire life. It may just be an urban legend, I don't know, but I do. I pull off when you have two branches, is that what you call it? Branches? Stems on a tomato plant. There's this one little leaf that grows in the middle and you pull that off. Oh, quick movie review. I saw Edge of Tomorrow, you know, the big budget Tom Cruise action movie. I loved the movie up until towards the end. I'm not gonna give you a spoiler, but it just kind of devolved into a typical action movie. And I don't know what it's with Hollywood. They have a really cool concept, you know, real sci-fi. The whole idea is it's kind of like Groundhog Day kind of thing. The guy keeps reliving the same day over and over. And you know, the ideas and the concepts there were just really, really cool, but they just weren't bold enough to take it all the way. So other than that, but it's worth seeing. It's good. We saw it in 3D. Woo! I have one thing I want to show you before I let you go. Remember this pallet side table I made last year? I think it might have been. I really love this table. It's so cool looking, but look what's happened to it. These nails, they just decide to pop up. I mean, they're defying gravity nails. I don't really need those nails because these are glued in. I mainly put them in to hold it while the glue was drying, but do you have any idea what would cause those to, I mean, not just come up a little bit, but like almost completely pop out of the wood? I'll bang them back down, but I just thought that was interesting. And that's all I got for this week. Not a lot. I'll talk to you next week.